Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. Joining me today, what's up, 051?
051, BK in the house.
BK in the house, and then the 86er is back. So Jason Campbell, 086, Able Shepherd 086 from Montana. What's up?
I'm enjoying it.
Should be. Man, we started up in Wyoming. We're going to get to that. Hey guys, instead of going through the a sponsor on this one, I wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Kevin Cullis. Quick update on this. And the Wyoming BDR, I'm calling this Wyoming BDR Post Op, meaning we just got back from this amazing trip, 9 days in the mountains and all that. And just this sense of gratitude that came over me that we have this amazing community. Yeah. And then, the business that we're all a part of has just got to a place where I can skinny out of here for 9 days. And then that hit me too. On the way back, a friend of ours from the days, from the old school days of Duty to Act, the beginnings of this company, got the word that he had passed. Where I was gassing up on the last gas stop, I think it was the last gas stop, wasn't it? Yeah. Maybe Love's in Wyoming or something like that, truck stop, and got a call from his phone. Immediately tried to call it back because I missed it, and then a call back from his sister saying that he had passed away. So that was a rough one, but due to have an amazing team and an amazing community, for several weeks I've been able to carve out a couple hours per week and just go sit and talk to this guy. Oh. And he's one of those guys that just always just 100 miles an hour, and he's a writer and just all these ideas and all that kind of stuff, and he just kind of didn't know what to do with all that stuff. So when you know the situation and it's not looking good and it's a terminal situation, you just have new ears. And we had some great conversations and just saying like, hey brother, what are you thinking about right now? And it just does me good to know that he's with the Lord, that I know where he was in his faith, and we got to talk about that stuff. Yeah. And my mother-in-law made this she's an amazing cook, and she made these cookies, these big bins of cookies, and I know he's a chocolate chip cookie guy, so just being, she got to be a part of that. But it just hit me this gratitude that, one, there was never in my schedule 2 hours of free time that you could just go, right? And Melissa made sure of it, and Parker, and you guys it was just go do this. And very, very grateful for that time. And then wrapping up this deal, I did miss last week because we were out in the mountains, and coming back was looking forward to sitting down with him because we just didn't know. He's like, I don't know if I got 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever. And anyway, so I just wanted to honor him. Kevin Cullis, brother, you're up there. Save a seat for us, save a place for us, and appreciate you. And to his family, just prayers and condolences. So we will move on and live well and honor those that have preceded us. Yep. So, speaking of gratitude, Wyoming BDR Post Op, we just got back. Man, you want to set it up? What do we do?
Boy, I don't even know where to start other than 8 days in the wilderness, and first couple days was a nice curveball with weather and washed out roads and running creeks and driving in reverse down a mountain.
Hey man,
that's how it started.
Good stuff. What is a BDR? Because I didn't even think about that. Like from people that are like, What's a BDR? You want to tackle that one?
Backcountry discovery routes. First one started, I think, what did we learn? The first one was in Washington State. Yep. There's probably most of them are on the West Coast right now, Western states, some East Coast states. And the goal of the route is to cross a state, typically south to north, and touch the least amount of pavement as possible. And some of those routes are very technical, and some of them are less technical, but still have their own nuance to them. So anyway, it's a great way to get outside, get out there, and see the land that God created, because it's pretty amazing.
And as I recall, it's Ride BDR. And would you guys say it's primarily designed for motorcycles?
Adventure motorcycles, yeah.
So you're packing your food, your sleeping tent, you're to survive in the wilderness for an extended period of time.
I think it's ingenious that they got together and they're not the first to do like a guided kind of tour thing, but they got with Butler Maps, and there's a product. There's 11 out now. I think Wyoming is the newest one because we were waiting on it, right?
Right.
And I first heard it from Steve when we did the lineage ride. He was talking about one of those is the legs of the BDR. My brother Steve, and I was like, what is this? And then kind of heard about it. And once this program found out about it, like, we're like, well, so you can get up there on motorcycles. A couple years ago, my son was 6 years old. We tracked and ran support for the Colorado BDR, which was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It was just unbelievable. And I've just got this envy. I'm in my truck, and of course, I'm with my son, so I wouldn't change it for the world. It was just an amazing experience. A 6-year-old gets to hang out with all these men, and we just set down some good SOPs, like, just act right.
Yep.
Like, if that could be an SOP, just freaking act right, man. Like, watch your language, control your drink, and if you're gonna have a beer, that's cool, but don't act a fool, right? And even if my son wasn't there, that's what I would request or require, or just not charge you. I'm charging me, but
another SOP.
Act right. Yeah,
act right.
I require a specific amount of time for my coffee in the morning. Don't rush my coffee.
We know that now. We know that. We learned that on
SOP.
BDR. He's
Yes.
like, hey man, that's an SOP. It's standard operating procedure. 86er needs a slow start.
That's right.
He's like,
And they ease into this thing.
Coffee's
Look where
got
we're
a
sitting.
steep. Yeah.
Look where we're sitting.
glow plugs, baby. Glow plugs. I need to warm up a minute. But it's just that kind of setting. I don't know that you can invest in another thing for a young man of 6, then 8 years old. So this is his second, and he's got the stickers on his electric motorcycle to prove it, right?
Yep.
He puts them on there, and he just drinks it in. You can catch him watching and studying people to see how he's supposed to act, and it's so good. It's my job not to present bad examples, right? So if you're a bad example, you're not invited.
Yep.
Don't come, stay home, right? Not charge you, I'm charging me, but it's my ride, so stay home, right? Or we'll just break off. Like if it got crazy, we just say, okay, we're on our own trip now, see ya, because I'm not presenting bad examples. But anyways, that the fact that they get with Butler Maps, they make a waterproof map that you can build out, and it says get gas here because there's not going to be any. This is super difficult, expert only. You can bypass it, do this, and for the 8-9 days, you're going through the mountains. Actually, Wyoming had cowboy farmland, just beautiful green crops, to high desert, to mountains, to just beautiful scenery, and it's no joke. It's when we say adventure motorcycle, it's not like like a gravel road. There were gravel roads, but this is like stuff that'd be hard to walk up, like Jeep trail kind of stuff, but you're on 2 wheels. And you're loaded out. One of the challenges is you're loaded out with everything you need to live for the next 9 days. So that even if there are support vehicles, the gist of it is go as if you're sustaining yourself. Because if you get, something happens, you might spend the night by yourself. If you get segregated from the group and there's no comm plan or something like that, and you're stuck, you got to be able to survive, right? And it's cool. It's an adventure. It's a modern day. Let's mount up. At one point, I see all these bikes in front of me, and I'm like, it'd be cool to superimpose instead of helmets and motorcycles, like cowboy hats and the horses, because it's just an amazing, modern day adventure, and it's stinking awesome. So we took some notes. We wanted to do kind of a post up on that trip, just a little bit, share some stories, and then we sat down the last night and I kind of asked people, hey, what would you change? Now this is kind of a little foreshadowing. We're going to be doing some episodes because we are doing some teaser type episodes of a potential show, meaning like a Duck Dynasty type Christ-centered show based on what we do. Meaning this adventure thing, as we're using adventure as a tool to pursue the hearts of men and women, there's something to that, and I'm not letting up on that because it just proved it again. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be amazing. And it was. It was like, you mentioned the weather. You want to talk about that for a second? Because that got everybody's attention right out of the gate.
Yeah, before I go into the weather, one thing with the motorcycles that I really appreciated or respected is it will test every possible riding skill you have, from dry asphalt to wet asphalt to Forest Service dirt road to 6 inches to a foot deep ruts, that if you get in that rut, it just spits you into the weeds.
Yeah.
Not to mention the rocks, elevation changes, hot, cool. So that was pretty exciting. And I guess that would lead into the weather, literally having to prepare for anything. I'm not sure I had been in a torrential downpour yet this year, and it was as soaking a rain I've ever seen, probably close to hail or snow. It felt like the lightning was impossibly close. So I was driving my truck, and the touchscreen on one of the lightning strikes, like scrolled through black and white fuzzies.
Really? Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're close enough for
it's all ones and zeros everywhere.
for the truck to reboot, that lightning's pretty close.
Yeah.
And
Well, you saw that picture that Mike sent
Yeah,
out
the video.
of the lightning strike next. Like Don's here, and it's not. I wouldn't be dramatic and say it's right here, but it's too close for comfort.
yep.
Right.
And you're walking down the hill saying, "Turn it around. We got to get out of here,
Yeah.
else we're not."
So that was captured on video, and I forget. Oh, it was Mike Miller.
Mike Miller,
that posted that. Is we're walking back down, and that's cool too, because I got to talk to my son about that and talk about lessons where where I'm like, you don't underestimate water, this whole nature thing and the power of water. Being in the ocean, being a kid in the SEAL teams, heading to Buds out of Missouri.
Yeah.
Like my idea of rough water was the wave pool at Oceans of Fun, right? It's like, so you go out there and you watch the ocean pick up 6 grown men and throw them back to the beach. You're like, roger that. And there's no off switch. Yeah. So if the things get janky, there's no pause button. Like if I could pause this for a minute, I could gather myself. That ain't happening. It's going to hit you 10 more times with a bigger wave. So this flash flood thing of burn areas and seeing rapid water going through mud, and the road was washed out. We'd already driven through a couple that at any second could be that bad too. Yep. And now you're between them. And it was like, turn around. Because if that happens behind us, we're stuck here.
And that brings up to your point about the map and some pre-planning, because we had to make a U-turn, go back downhill. Luckily, we got away from the brown or ash-ridden water, just black water coming down the hill, washing out a Forest Service road. And then we had to reroute to, I believe, Centennial, which was up and over a pretty significant mountain pass, to the point I thought it was snowing. The mountains were white. I later found out, it's just white rock. But I have to think on a bike, that's pretty cold. When you're soaked to the bone, you're climbing an altitude, and now you're going, 60 miles an hour.
And Mikey Miller's so funny, because talking to him after, it's just funnier when you get like the dialogue, because I'm behind him, and we're rooting for him, because he's like probably one of the newest riders, but he's good. I mean, he's got some skills, right? And I'm just watching the back of the road, and my son too, he's like, come on, Mike, come on, you. And his bike just turns side. We go through the mud, and you just see the whole bike go sideways. And then he pulls it out. And we're like, he can't hear us. And we're recording this, so somewhere the video will come. We did have this one professionally documented as far as video, COBC and all this stuff. But me and my son are cheering for him, and bikes go down, we jump out, we're picking him up and all that stuff. But that one it wasn't overly dramatic, but it was like, that's loud lightning, super close. Time to turn around. We found out a couple of days later that there was another group that launched out in South Denver that we ran into at the first gas stop at Bags. He had sent Mike, and Mike knew the guy, one of the guys in this 13-person deal. They said that they had to abandon their bikes, do an emergency camp, and right when they left their bikes, lightning struck the dude's GS.
Struck a bike.
So his BMW and fried it. So now you got a bike that's done because lightning just took it out. So, and like we say, as long as nobody gets injured, it just makes for a better story, man.
Sure.
It's like we had some people hurt, but not injured. Like
did they make s'mores over that smoldering GS?
I know, right? At that point, just,
Embrace it.
It
Lemonade,
was a
baby.
s'more. The metal and plastic became one.
So that was some of the weather, and then fast forward and getting into like mountain lakes. Like, remember Everett and I got up early and said, we're going to swim across this lake, and swimming across this big mountain lake where it's a touch too cold. Like it would not be preferable to swim in it, but you're like, we're doing it, and then you get out and you're chilled for the next hour. I just haven't been there in a minute. I just haven't. Yep. I personally, I didn't think I missed it, because who misses cold water? Everybody thinks, Navy SEAL, you take cold showers. No. Buds, like that taught me to appreciate comfort, right? I can do it. Like I could jump off this building if it was on fire, but I'm not going to practice. You know what I mean? It's like that whole thing with that I bet you take cold showers, and I bet you do this, and I bet you starve yourself. No.
Not so much.
But returning there is kind of cool.
You swim across the lake, you're halfway back, your hands were getting stiff or cold, and you got out of the lake. Was there anything you needed that you didn't bring with you on the trip for getting out of the water, like, say, a towel?
Freaking towel, man. Who needs a towel? I told
so you air dry on
I know,
a
Christian
lake.
I was telling Christian, I was like, we drip dry, man. Because he was talking about that. Yeah. You have a towel? I'm like, towel? Who needs a towel? You'd be dry in a minute. Gravity take over that.
Mental note.
Yeah. And it's funny because Everett told me about this pack towel, And when I go swimming at the pool, I'll bring that thing, and it, I don't even know what that material is, like microfiber or something. Yeah, and it's cool. I just didn't bring it. But it's like, Christian kept asking about it. We have a towel? I'm like, he was using the dog's towel, the one we used to wipe off its feet. And that was cool because they started calling him Mowgli. So when I got Christian and this wild beast, my dog, our puppy, it's a Labradoodle, and they go out into the wild and they come back and they're just wild critters that you got to teach to act, to exist amongst folk again. It was awesome, so good. Okay, so where were we? So we took some notes on the last night, and I just wanted to talk to everybody collectively and say what would you have changed? And it was kind of a everybody's hanging out, having a beer, just having a good time, and just kind of we were at an Airbnb in Casper, getting ready to close out before the last push home, right? So pre-trip, I wrote out a couple notes. So under pre-trip, actually change a tire. A lot of people have tire kits and all that stuff. I watched a YouTube video, but actually changing a tire. I've never changed a tire in my GS. So we had right out of the gate, we had a flat in your brand new truck with you can't get more tread than that. They're just perfect. Like everything's good to go. Yep. And I've never seen where a rock, not even a sharp rock,
right into the
went
lug.
So hard in, it went right through the tread and embedded. And ever had to get in there with some needle nose, broke it in half, and then got the nugget out and just patched it with a patch kit, with the beef jerky looking, took 2 plugs and then was good to go for the rest of the trip. So that was a big one. I've done that before, never on a brand new tire. And have I done that on a full-size truck? I forget what I've done it, but plugging a deal. It's good to revisit that stuff. And then we had 2 more. One damaged a front wheel, and the other one was a nail that got into a back tire. So you're seeing the stuff, and you're seeing the people that have the right tools. Or, for example, one guy didn't bring a patch kit because he had tubeless tires. But then we ended up needing a patch kit for another guy's, the patch kits, the adhesive type patch kits.
I always pack everything. But.
Right. And but in his mind, he justified that and then didn't do it, and that's when you need it. Right? That's that Murphy thing. And Murphy can make you crazy because I'm that guy. I bring everything. I bring the kitchen sink, and I'm like, man, this is a bunch of garbage. So I bring too much stuff. But it's a good to have a good toolkit where you can work off of a bead and get the tire off. And one of them was the tubeless tires that you can plug, but it wasn't that. It was a wheel hit, so we bent the wheels. So what do we end up doing? Taking out his stem and then putting in a tube tire that somebody else brought. And I didn't think about that too. Put the heavy duty ones in your tires, but carry the spare that's a lightweight because it's ounces end up being pounds. Right?
And I'd like to go back 5 seconds because the person that had to remove that valve stem, the tool that came with his bike wouldn't fit between the spokes.
That's right.
So make sure if you have it, practice with the equipment because I bought one that you can use with your fingers for my toolkit.
Boom.
Because we would have been dead on the trail if somebody else didn't have it was about the size of a valve cap. Wasn't easy to use, but it got the stem out, which allowed us to get the tire off, which allowed us to insert a tube and get them back on the trail.
I had a Tacoma back in the day, and I was working on the range when I was working with the agency, and I got a piece of rebar into the tire, and I went to use the kit that I knew. I put a kit in there for that, but I had oversized the tires, right? So I'm like, oh no, I'm maxed out on the jack, and we're still touching. So I end up digging a hole under it to get it off the ground, and it worked. But I'm like, man, I've never done this with these tires. So literally changing the tire, you're going to know, like, I can't do it with this stuff. I need to run to the store while there's a store, get the right stuff, and it should be in there anyway. Right? So, and to your point, he had a valve tool. Just doesn't work on his motorcycle.
Not on his bike.
And where did he find out? On the trail, right? It's good stuff. Load the tracks, making sure that those tracks, are in those GPSs. It's amazing when you just have a line. I'm a big fan, and I didn't put on this, I put on another thing, map and compass. I think it is actually on here somewhere. Is having a map and compass, even if it's that BDR map with a compass, it's a big deal. Like for backup, if this stuff doesn't work, you still need to be able to get home.
Say a lightning strike.
Say that fries it, and now you're stuck out there, and there's no blue line to follow. So the technology. Oh, there you go. All right, so map and compass. The technology exists if you're not familiar with this, and even this app Gaia. That Gaia app was unbelievable for the vehicles. Like off your phone, you can load that GPX file in there, and then there's a blue line on this map, and you see your car. So if you're driving on that blue line, you're good to go. And you can look and track on maps just like you would on the one here in town, but you don't have a cell service now. So your phone has it embedded, the newer phones have an embedded GPS in it. So you're looking at a map overlay that you put on your phone, and it doesn't take. I think I downloaded all of Wyoming or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just following along. And if you're on that blue line, then you're on the trail. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, and do all that stuff. But if you've got that, that's fantastic. But when that doesn't work, you still need to have a plan, right? So just knowing how to use that stuff, even at a basic level of some map and compass. Test your comms. So as far as communication, we have. This is later down there, but rugged radio. I'm considering that. Because of the radios. We have these digital anytone radios that we use amongst the group, and we've got some channels that we are the preset channels for the Upper Shepherd community. But testing that stuff and seeing if it works. A lot of the bikes now in the helmets have a communication deal that's a Bluetooth deal, and it'll go like line of sight, but they're not real good as far as that country. Like I could talk to him. He's in a truck, I'm in a truck. We've both got onboard systems that are radios, and it's VHF, and we can talk, and it's not a problem, right? Those bikes get a little further away, you can't get them anymore, and they don't propagate well. SOPs. So SOPs, and feel free, Jay, to chime in on this, or both of you guys have been, you've more motorcycle, but you've been on these trips as well, is the no comms plan, meeting no more than 30 minutes seeing the group. Just having some basic rules of saying, if I haven't seen somebody in an amount of time, stop. Just stop and let's get together again. This comes from like the either rides or the guide school that I went to and all that. So you're always keep an eye on the guy in the rearview mirror. If everybody does that, like I haven't seen BK in a while, I would stop. Then I'd see him like, okay, we're good. If it's got an emergency and comms are down, I'm not going to know it, and I could be in 2 hours away before I realize that there's a problem. And if it's emergency and there's an emergency, then minutes matter. Stop regularly, get eyes on the group. I already talked about that. Grouping on the highways. So sometimes on highways, and I'm sure you've seen this on rides before, and we saw this on this ride. Young dude, cowboy, pickup truck. He sees a line of 2 vehicles, 6 motorcycles, a camper, and something else, and he just goes for it.
I got this.
He punches it on a double yellow, going over a hill around a corner, and if there's anybody coming over that hill, the motorcycles lose.
Yeah.
Just law of gross tonnage. He's going to come into this lane and you're going to go into the woods. So that's the kind of thing is like as far as you have created a 300-foot vehicle to group into 2s and 3s and give a space for that knucklehead to just jump in there if he's in that big of a hurry and not push motorcycles off the street. So that's just something, as far as the people understand that. You come over comms, say, hey guys, give them a hole, and they can. But if you don't have comms, you're not going to know it and it's just going to be getting pushed off the road. Briefing every morning with a map study and that day's route. So like the map study, I think it's a good idea. We did it towards the end. Is some people are just along for the ride, and I've just been that guy, to be quite honest. Sometimes you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to follow this guy. But you should know kind of where you're at. 1, on this 9-day adventure. 2, just on this day, plan on stopping here, here, and here, right? So it's just small, manageable bites. I know we're going up here, we're going to stop at this waterfall, and we're going to take a break. It's good to know kind of where you are and what you're doing. Anything to add, guys? We talked about Jimmy gets on a roll. You're like,
no.
To say.
I really like
I have an opinion on
hearing the way
children.
you broke it down with the 3 steps. Right?
I don't think it should either. Sorry, we were talking before. What's up, brother?
No, I like how you broke it down to 3 steps. The whole ride, today's ride, and the next stop.
Yeah.
That because it can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
And when okay, I've got 30 minutes to a gas stop or where a trail converges or there's a landmark of some sort. I think we passed a ghost town, we passed a waterfall, we passed a petroglyph, dinosaur burned in the rock.
Were they drawn or carved, BK?
Both, man.
D, all the above. Yeah.
Excellent.
And that was cool. That was cool to see. Well, remember, so both on the Lineage ride, that was about 4,400 miles, and on the Lance ride, the Lance Car Memorial ride, 12,000 miles to Alaska. What we would do is every morning we would have a little brief, go over that plan of the day. We even had people assigned to the weather. Some people just watch the weather. I'm not one, but people go, hey, yeah, it's supposed to rain today. And like every day they wake up and need to know the weather. I'm like, when I'm wet, I know what time it is, right?
That's right.
But when you're riding, that's a different deal. Like to go out there and have somebody going, hey, the weather update, and they just read off a weather report, and there's buy-in, and it's a team thing, and nobody's along for the ride. Like everybody's got kind of a job, So that's cool to have those sections, and again, you should kind of know where you're at. Like, and we joked about it. Where are we? Wyoming. That's a good start, but where at in Wyoming? As far as where's Yellowstone, where's this, where's that.
Well, and Wyoming was interesting because we joked, hey, we found the internet. Because there was days without internet connectivity. So the little button on your Apple phone, no weather. So have a plan B for finding your weather
That's how you know you
forecast.
picked the right path.
That's the right state. That's
Yeah.
the right BDR. Brief on hand signals. Those are good to know, and especially for the road stuff. We're going to be doing that when we do the Remember Benghazi ride here. A couple weeks, man. We're coming up on that quick. So that the hand signals help, especially when there's no comms. Contingency plan. I put what if it doesn't? Because we start leaning on this stuff, and for example, all the instructors in SEAL training would be like, when that GPS doesn't work, you're going to need map and compass. And they're right. But when it does work, I'm using the GPS, right? Because it's more efficient. It's just the deal, right? But if it doesn't work, but not just the GPS stuff, like all of these things that we kind of lean on, what if this doesn't work? Like what if the bike doesn't start? What if, some of those places you can't get a trailer to, at least not easily, or you get it in, you might not get it out, So we've talked about that. We're working on some recovery stuff and how do we get motorcycles out. But all that stuff, it's just I think most people in this program, most people we know actually are what if kind of people.
I think that's right.
What if that, I get it, people are acting right, what if they're not? What if somebody kicks in my door? Or the bear thing, we saw that guy at a Jesper, he's like, well, prevention is the key. I'm like, man, when a bear's got your neck, you're not going to be thinking about, I should have hung the trash. I don't care why, a bear lost his mind. I want to have some, lighten him up at the end of a muzzle. I don't know how we get off on that. Bring cash. So that was another thing. Bringing cash recommended. I just threw out $200. What do you guys think about that? I'm just in cash. I get it. We go to some of these places and a lot of places for gas had a way to pay with a credit card, but like even small bills for campgrounds.
I typically, my emergency cash, I think I showed that to you when we were on the Colorado BDR, where I think I had $1,000 cash. Yeah. So it's kind of and that's just the emergency stuff. That's not my travel
Does that
money.
stay put?
That just,
Where is it again?
Yeah, I know. I was about to say that. I was like, but you keep it staged, and it stays with your kit.
It stays. And I make sure, like you, somebody else, in case something happens to me, and I don't have in my mind that there's cash available to be able to.
That's good. That's a good practice. Yeah. And that in that case, $200. Even nowadays, $200. That's not a lot if you need a couple tanks of gas. And small bills too, because if all you got's hundos because you're rolling like the 86er, and you need $7 for a campground, you're either that guy that just skipped out without paying, or you just paid for the
you gotta leave early.
You're like, man, I'm gonna stay here for the next week and a half to get my money's worth.
That's right.
So that's a good practice. Bring paper maps. Compass already talked about that. Ziploc bags. My family makes fun of me for Ziploc bags, man. I'm a Ziploc bag.
They're fantastic.
Ziploc bags, flashlights, knives.
Can't have too many. You cannot have too many.
You can't have too many Bic lighters.
Right.
You need a Bic lighter everywhere. I don't smoke. I just need a Bic lighter. Start the stove, do the thing, whatever. Quick change from chest. Okay, so now we're talking about cameras. So cameras, we did document this when we were doing some GoPro footage because of the episode. Quick change from chest rig to head mount to adjustable arm to tripod. So having the GoPros, some of them have the fast tech type thing and some of them don't, and they're taking off screws and all that. And out there, it seems like the second you turn your camera off or mess with it, that's when something
You just missed it.
right? You're like, dang it. So, and every time I'd pull my camera out, my phone, to grab something, Moto Mike would get on me because he's our cinematographer and he's professional. He's like, hey man, like, where's your GoPro? Because it's is it 4K?
4K.
I don't know. The technologies. He wants the highest quality possible because he can do more with it.
Right.
So if he sees it with my phone, he's like, hey, Jimmy, what are you doing? I'm like, man, the thing freaking died, whatever. Or, whatever. We had to charge it or it was on the wrong mount or whatever. So
Needed a firmware update.
Right. So I think now it's going to be 2. I think for every person, 2 of those bad boys, 1 charging and 1 filming, and then just be able to flop them back and forth, and obviously have your cards, like the big cards, like the 256 or 258, whatever it is, gig SD cards. I would have been set if I had I did have some extra ones, but we didn't have enough cameras to be able to switch them out, or I guess the batteries too. Instead of charging them, just switch out the batteries.
And that's something to consider if you do have a sport vehicle or a truck. I cannot tell you how many devices we had charging at any one time. You have some spare battery or some type of charging source, because we had a drone battery, a drone remote controller, at least 5 or 6 GoPros between everybody.
Every helmet had comms.
And on the bikes I heard guys talking about a pigtail, if you will, that could charge 3 or 4 devices off of the bicycle's battery at camp at night. But some of the larger devices will chew through battery quickly.
Yep. Max efficiency charging setup for GoPros when charging, when filming with extra SD cards. But I like that pigtail idea, or the one that you plug in. Is that what you're talking about? Plug it into one, you can charge 4 things. That's legit. So having all of that stuff ready for the next day to go, then you're starting fresh, right? Sport vehicle. So sport vehicle. I was talking to one of Mike's buddies, Alex, I think it is, and he was talking about this, and he's like, the sport vehicle, just even thinking about what you can do with a support vehicle, is you can go as far as you want with that. Like, does the stove pull out? Do you sleep inside of it? How do you recover a heavy? We're talking about motorcycle, we're not talking dirt bikes. We're talking about 700 pounds. That's a heavy.
Some of them got up near 1,000 when I started doing inventory.
With rider, yeah. Like if you had rider and full kit, Everett's rolling 1,000 pounds, easy. Yep. Was that him too?
I think it was Mike Miller saying his bike dry was 800, saddlebags at 100, put gas in it. Like it got up there in a hurry.
GS. Anyways, yeah, you're cruising around 1,000 pounds. It's a lot of machinery on a goat trail. You know what I mean? This thing's
and if there's
boulders like this, called baby heads, but big boulders and rolling over that kind of stuff. It's just a lot, and that's part of it, right? Developing that skill.
Yeah,
bikes will do it. This rider won't do it in some of those places. I mean, not without crunching some stuff up, because I've proven that. But that's why you see this armor on those motorcycles. Yes, it looks like it's look at all that stuff. It's like a cage around it. It's protecting those heads, because if you smack that head, that engine's done.
I've seen holes punched in those, and that's not pretty.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. So that steel cage can take a hit, but maybe not that head. So it's good stuff. Okay, so sport vehicle, 2 smaller coolers on the back of the rack. One, I had a big cooler that demolished that contraption that I was using, so I tried to make a rack system that was just not a good idea and just trashed that thing. I had a Trex deck, all things. Ran out of time, went full jank, Ninja hit me. I think instead of the bigger cooler, I may try the smaller one and do one wet, one dry. One is a food box, and one and rigging the cooler on the outside of the vehicle on that rack, the steel one, to where the bikers, when they come to the back of the vehicle, they can pop it open and grab a cold drink, right? Instead of undoing cargo straps. If you mount it that way, they walk over, grab their drink, hit it, do whatever, and stay hydrated with something cold. That's just a cool idea that we're going to play with. Secure the gear if the tailgate's left open. I don't see me doing
SOP.
this, but I've had that heart attack where I've had comms gear on the back of a vehicle, and then if for whatever reason went to throw a piece of trash away, I put it in drive, then put it in park, and then went back and been like, I almost spilled the stuff out on the street kind of thing. Because I know we had a scare. You guys went back, and we didn't lose anything, did we?
Didn't lose.
Yeah, it was like, BK, the tailgate's open, and everybody's like, ooh, like what was sitting there, right? And it turned out it was nothing, but it's easy to do, and if that's left open, so I don't know if there's a way to throw, not that I'm going to go buy one of those gator gates or whatever they call those things, the holes in it, but just something to consider, just making sure. Waterproof containers and cooler for everything. Oh, this is one thing that I've done in the past, but I didn't do on one of the runs, is if you're going to go get, because usually bacon and eggs, right? Break off all of those eggs into a Nalgene bottle. Like, don't be trying to cart freaking egg shells, whatever.
On ice,
because you're going to have a freaking mess. Because literally you are hopping. At one point, my child and my dog were airborne. I'm probably hear from the law on
and
this
your
one.
Cooler.
And the cooler. Well, no, we hit, and that cooler karate chopped that freaking deck in half, and now I look in the back and I see a ball of dust, and now we got to go back and get it. And I'm like, BK, brakes, and you're stopping so you don't run it over. It was just a mess. But you are on rugged terrain, which is awesome, but man, those coolers are not, you're slamming stuff off the top and bottom all day. So if you can waterproof containers and seal them up.
Perfect spot for eggshells.
It's a perfect spot. Yeah, it's like you just busted to pieces. So if you crack all those off and fill a Nalgene bottle, you're probably going to scramble them anyways, but you just pour them out on the griddle and get after it. And, obviously, waterproof and everything. So if they're in waterproof containers, I think I pulled out a bag of bacon, cooked bacon, and I'm like, somehow water got in the Ziploc thing, and now you got soup. The whole cooler's a wreck.
But the huckleberry candies soaked in water were very nice.
Yeah, those were pretty good. Was it huckleberry licorice or something like that? Or the beer cans that look like they've been thrown down the street 25 times. Yeah, they just get beat. The ice beats them. The other beer cans beat whatever. Crush proof container dry box got that. I thought about the dry box inflating Ziploc bags to fill the space. Like if you got stuff like graham crackers and bread, and it's slamming. What do you think about filling up like Ziploc bags just to fill the space to keep it from bouncing off the roof?
Never tried it. I don't know if that zip would hold.
One way to find out. What's up, dry box?
Or save all those poppy things you get from Amazon.
Just carry those. Well, I already got like an abundance of Ziploc bags.
True. Multi-use.
Yeah, and then you end up using them. Large water bladder with spigot. That was awesome. So Everett had a 75-gallon?
75-gallon, I would call it a cistern or a bathtub with a valve, a bladder.
It's like a rigid box full of water
tied
made
down
for
in
this,
the truck, yeah.
and you tied it down the back of your F-250.
Has a hose coming out of it, so as long as you park nose up, gravity will treat you right. Fresh, clean water.
That was amazing. So
On demand, yeah.
It was turn the spigot on, and then once the hose is out, you take off the thing, and if it was up, it's off, and if you lower it below the bed of your truck, you're filling up all your bladders and lift it up again. So as we kind of figured that out, the thing was kind of it was just a cool luxury. If you don't have that, we were just talking about this. We were by water all the time, going to the lakes, purify the water, boil the water, whatever. It's just more work, so that was kind of nice to have on a sport vehicle.
Convenient for sure.
Propane cylinder, you had a base, and then I did order milk crates as well.
Yeah.
So the 13 by 13 milk crates, I guess I have had that whole deal, and what I realize is not only with the propane cylinders, but also with buckets of brass. I've got the deck system, and I recycle brass from the shooting range, and I had one fall
in a
over.
5-gallon bucket.
Oh man, right. And it fell over and got in the cracks, and you can't get to it. Like you can't get to it. So to this day, if you went and open that, brass will fall out probably. And I'm like, oh man. And it was hilarious, man. My neighbors probably think I'm crazy. I'm like, kids are clearing out. I'm going backwards, slamming on the brakes. Brass is coming out.
How else are you
Throw it
gonna
in park. The kids are picking it up, whatever.
Yeah.
Put it in buckets. Okay, clear. Then I'll get back. I do it again. It's just a mess. So yeah, if another freaking 5-gallon bucket of brass falls over, I'm selling the truck.
Well, I know a guy that can take that deck system out for you and get the rest of them.
And then the day you do that, another bucket will fall over, right?
No, because you have milk crates now.
Yeah, so the milk crates are coming, so hopefully they don't fall over. So this is a stretch, and I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, if you're tight for space, don't do this. If you're not, a fire pit.
Yeah.
That fire pit, and you can go click sticks together if you want, but when we did the shakeout ride, and I think we had a burn, what do they call it, burn ban? Mm-hmm. Like here locally, fire ban. So you can only do the gas, and Christian just dug it, so he wanted to bring it. But then also getting out there and having fire right now. When bikers are wet and you got a fire, you literally just stroke a match, start the thing, and it's burning while you're starting near their fire. So it just worked out. Many nights we had 2 fires going, one immediately, and the boys doing s'mores in it and all that kind of stuff while we're stacking wood and doing all that and starting the other fire.
And the thing I liked about it had rocks for a heating medium versus wood. And it had a travel cover with some type of strap.
The rocks aren't popcorn out of that thing.
So it could, once it cooled down, you could put it in the truck and move it. It was portable.
Yeah, super, super easy, and that was pretty cool. Tire change kit, obviously. Okay, moving to the motorcycle, tank bag. You're rolling a tank bag, yeah?
Yep.
What are you going with?
Wolfman.
For Wolfman, I can't even remember the one I've got, and then the Moscow one is pretty cool. I was looking at Mike's. I love the tank bag that is almost like a clamshell that goes over another deal. Mm-hmm. And there's a molly on top with a map case. So what he's looking at is a good size section of map. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's pretty sweet. Yep. Mine's got like on the oval part of it, you can jank your map all up and jam it in there and see this much of it. But I like that big old map case.
His was like 8.5 by 11, a full sheet
it's a full sheet of paper kind of deal.
So mine's a small one, so it's
so it's cool.
Better.
And then what kind of stuff are you rolling? Is it handy stuff like gloves and that just kind of stuff you're grabbing and just regularly in and out of, and then you just pop a couple fast techs to fill it up with gas. Yeah, that's what mine is, but like I like his a little bit better. I think his is built waterproof, and mine is like got a cover or something. All right, so tank bag, rethink layers. Layers. So Everett has a deal. I think he was saying 2, maybe 3, and I like that because I down here later, too much clothes. Like my notes, too much clothes. Christian, too much clothes. A lot of people were saying too much clothes. You're going to be dirty. Just get after it. Mm-hmm. So do you tend to pack too much? You got a system?
I got a system.
What do you got?
And it's like this. It's polished from doing it wrong a bunch of times. Yeah. Where I did overpack a bunch of times. And now it's like, especially too, because of hunting, I already have really good layering systems. And so it's stuff that's designed to wear multiple days and So it's pretty fine-tuned now.
Nice.
One thing I liked that Everett had was essentially a Ziploc bag with fingers. So you could stuff a T-shirt or socks, put it in the lake, and it would scrub.
Oh, scrubba.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
at
like
least like the stuff
it's
that's
like Ziploc
closest to your
bag with
skin.
fingers. What's happening right now?
Bringing quarters?
We got fingers. Like a waterproof bag, you fill with laundry detergent and water, and it's got those little fingers like on the inside,
Yeah, little
like
nubby type
texture
things,
deals. Yeah, and I was looking over, I saw Elliot doing that thing, and he's like massaging the thing, wicka. But it's just like a little portable washing machine.
Yeah, for T-shirts and socks, the
Yeah.
stuff that's closest to your body,
Yep.
you only got to bring 3 of them for a 9-day trip. And
These
And
are
if-
pretty portable too.
If you've got like the hook type, the synthetic stuff, like the hook gears, what's another brand? Ex Officio, Columbia, you name it. Yeah, Kuyu, all this stuff, it dries quickly.
Yep.
Like you can wash it, hang it up, and it's dry in the morning, right? So that's what, to Everett's point, is I think he said 3. On one of the trips, he did 3 outfits, like 1, 2, 3, and then layers, obviously, like some warmy something.
Yeah.
And in the SEAL teams, we called it a silk weight, a warmy layer, and then a shell, right? And it's
Did you say warming or warmy?
freaking warmy, man.
Oh, it's warmy.
Like warmy. It's like a whoopee. You know what a whoopee is?
That's just so we're
Freaking
clear.
magic. I'm going back right now. I'm taking me back to the happy place. So having a and then if it gets really cold, wear all of them, right? Even if it's not raining, that shell is going to trap your heat, and then the warmy layer, my warmy layer is going to generate heat and not let that thing sweat through, because they say they're breathable, and they're, some of them are somewhat and some of them are horrible, but it'll keep you warm at night, kind of thing. So the layered thing, not and it's tempting to bring like the anorak. That's just a big, beautiful piece of equipment, but it's heavy,
So cool.
and it's just, if you got a vehicle, why not? But if you're on a motorcycle, that's not making the trip.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the same thing with your big Carhartt jacket. I'm on my anti-Carhartt kick, by the way, because of the vaccination stuff. So, we can
But
leave
I
that
think
on.
to your point,
But I'm not
whether
bringing that
it's
either.
Carhartt or the Anorak, I think the stuff Jason and Everett has is like technology-based materials that
Yeah.
it can insulate, is certainly water repellent, but it can also pack small and tight.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful oiled cotton Anorak you have
Yeah.
that packs down to the size of a.
Volkswagen.
Well, even the natural fiber thing, like I think you guys know, I was in a deal where I had it was a smoke grenade. When you set off a smoke grenade, there's a magnesium flare that goes off to ignite it. And I had one go off right here, and I had 3 layers of basically plastic clothes embedded in my shoulder.
Yeah.
And then I've got a scar there. You've probably seen it, but it's like having that one layer of natural fiber probably would have been hot and maybe burned me, but not like it did. Like
Right.
it was
Not
fused
become
in there.
part of
Nobody's
you.
like dig it out. It's just nasty stuff.
Yeah.
But it works. It's like that technology. Don't get near the fire. So if you're camping and I'm in my truck, I'll probably pull out some kind of what do you call
Something
that?
that'll
Like
take
the
embers.
the
Yeah.
canvas kind of thing,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And it's what it's for. And stuff lands on it. Might have little pock marks on it. I'm like, oh, I got that
cares?
jacket. But when you're talking ounces turned to pounds, now all of a sudden that stuff doesn't make the trip. Blind spot mirrors. Do you use those? The little, I think they're 2-inch adhesive mirrors on the, what are those mirrors we got called?
Side view mirrors?
Yeah, there's a brand called.
Oh, yeah. But I can't remember.
Anyways, they're awesome. They're like they go to the RAM mount thing. I'll think of it here in a second. But Mike was talking about that, because when you can do that quick glance, that little blind spot, man, if somebody's in it and you come over, that's a good idea, I think, for a motorcycle too. USB port mounted, H2O proof. Just means I saw on Everett's bike, he had one mounted to where the charger type mount stuff goes into a water kind of clamshells over it and locks it into rubber so water can't get in it. So that's kind of cool. I'm gonna look at that.
And the thing I liked about that is it's multi-purpose, because that's where his battery tender also plugs in for winter storage.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
yep.
one connection and everything else is downstream.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
if you can get away having something that's multi-use, multi-purpose, that
Absolutely.
goes a
And then
long
my
way.
spork spatula tongs, man.
Oh,
This is like
boom.
this was the one thing I couldn't wait to say on this podcast. I hope I'm close enough to this mic, BK. The one I got, I think it was from the name that shall not be stated.
That's correct.
Stinking Amazon, man. Like I'm trying to break away from this. Dang it, taking myself off. This one was called Full Windsor. They're titanium. One's a spatula.
Do you have to say that with an accent?
What's that?
Full Windsor.
Like the I can't remember it now. What's that show with the suits and the special agent deals? I'm going down a rabbit hole. Anyways, spork spatula tongs, meaning there's a spork, and then you put it together with the spatula that's also a knife.
Yep.
And then it makes tongs. And for camping, it is legit. Now, I
It
know
is
that
legit.
Gerber makes one that's a little bit cheaper and it's out of plastic. I don't know that I go that route. That thing is money. So everything from eating your freeze dried to making your coffee to picking up steaks and flipping them on the grill, thing's money.
Cleaning
Works
the
on-
grill
it
with a
works
spatula.
on-
All of it. It just worked on all of it.
Yeah, it works on 20 bratwurst.
Sure
Right?
did.
I don't know why it wouldn't. Clothesline, paracord. What do you think about this? So the clothesline conversation came up, and I got a little vibe from the 86er.
You mean the ounces or pounds? And you want to bring a clothesline? Is it LED backlit?
It was kind of cool, but then I started thinking about it. You could do it with paracord. Like you could. What this is a bungee that some of the guys had with little like waterproof clips on it. And one night it did, and that's what happens. You see it one night, and you go, "I need one," and then you end up, all packed out, weighing more than my truck. We ran out of space to hang anything. And Everett pulls out this deal, hooks it here, and all his stuff is hanging out, and it's a clothesline, and it dried it right on the porch of that house. So nicety, probably not a necessity, but I was thinking about that with if there's a way to do the same thing with paracord and knots, like doing just knots. I don't want anything extra, just tie it around it and let it hang. Because I've also been thinking about a couple of years the Community of Santiago doing that hike, and how do you wash and dry, like if you're in a hotel or a hostel or whatever.
Magic fingers and a clothesline. Oh, wait. That's what you got going on?
Yeah. But the clothesline is what?
I don't know how.
paracord?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's just paracord.
And I don't know how
clips-
much that one weighs.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it like
It was bulky more than anything, 'cause they're
is the juice
steel
worth the
clips.
squeeze? Because it's always like it's going to be pros and cons. If you bring this, you're not bringing
Right.
this, right? So it's like the whole Ranger thing. Travel light, freeze at night. If you want to do that, go cool. But there was some other stuff that guys aren't going to give up on, like the sleeping bag. We'll get to that. in
High
just a
back
second.
chairs.
High back chairs, right? Tire change, we already talked about that. Lightweight. Vest with essential stuff. Again, this was like more dirt bike mentality. Some of the guys have these vests on.
Yep.
And I like the concept where they're going with it. So if you have something like the InReach, Garmin InReach, whether it be the full InReach or the smaller one, it gives you the ability to be in the mountains and text someone. But it's through a satellite technology via text. So no, you can't call them, but you could send your location and you can send a text. Now some of them can be like all okay and have pre-designated ones, or you can literally use Bluetooth on your phone through an app and text like you're texting, but he's going to get it. And no, we don't have cell and no, we don't have Wi-Fi, but I can let BK know, hey, I got a flat tire, turn around and come back. And you're going to turn around and come back.
And one day we split, it may have been day one, we split an advanced track and a, more intermediate, and two of my riders went off route.
Yeah.
And I just pulled over, sent them a quick text, stop, turn around. We
Yeah.
were in the middle of the prairie.
Yeah.
And thankfully, these guys were reading it. They saw it come in. They turned right around. So,
And that's the kind of thing, like if you go right and I go left, because if you're zoomed out, you might see that track, but if you're zoomed out, it doesn't look like you're on the wrong road until you're way off. And then you're like, what just happened?
Yeah,
now, if you zoom in, you'll see a split in the road. You zoom out, it looks like one road. But if you go this way and I go this way and you realize you're wrong, we might not see each other again today. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, I think I'm trying to catch you, so I gun it. Well, you're on a different road, right? And now you're like, well, he's behind me, so he must be back there, so I'll stop. And now I'm gunning it and you're stopped. Like all that can happen inevitably without a good loss of comms plan and without some kind of comms.
Well, and that I think the other piece about that InReach on that specific piece of gear, which is like more of an H harness style with webbing, where it's the name of it's InReach, so you can be in touch with people, right? Yeah. But you also have to have it, like if you go down hard, you have to be able to reach it with minimal movement. And where they had it, those are really good spots.
Yeah.
Because it has an SOS
You go off
button.
a cliff,
Right.
and you pop the rubber thing off and you mash on the SOS thing.
Right.
And now it's letting the world know that you got a problem.
As opposed to being somewhere in a pack
Yep.
and past three zippers. And
Well, and as I recall, that harness, they also had a water bladder typically on the back. The hose is woven into MOLLE, 2 pouches up front, like maybe a boo-boo kit and maybe one for your wallet. And
freaking pistol, man.
Your
Smoke
lead
wagon.
distribution unit.
Right, in the back of med kit, like it just, everything is right here, but it goes over your gear.
And it stays with you.
And
If
it's
you get
with you,
thrown,
right? You get thrown,
It's
and it's
probably
right
going to
there,
stay on you, yeah.
So I kind of like the concept. I don't know that I do it on a road trip over what I've got, but in the mountains on like a dirt bike type mindset, then absolutely. I think I'm going to look at that. I've actually ordered some stuff to piece that together. I didn't like the black one, so we're going with the tactical.
Well, they're not available.
It's like tactical gear. So like if you piece together the same thing, that's the route I'm going. Because we've got a distributor that we really like, Tactical Tailor. They make those pieces. They just don't use them for dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Right. So typically, like that pouch might be a side pouch, but they're using them up front. They're putting a pistol in it. Okay, I'm down. We can figure that out. So the best extra gas and water. Obviously, having them on your bike is a good deal. The tire pumps, I know that Moto Pumps was one, and the other one was called Cycle Pump.
Cycle Pump.
Cycle Pump, Moto Pump. Like Cycle Pump
Press, yep.
is press the model, or what is that?
It's like the whole name, Cycle Pump Press.
Cycle Pump Press. Okay, so I put it on here because I'm going to do some more research on them. One of them's cheaper, and that Moto Pumps saved our bacon a couple times when the Easy whatever wasn't working. Like that one wasn't working. And then I think you and Everett have the higher end Cycle Pump that guy I think makes them for this specifically.
Yep.
Didn't he? Yeah. So both just good stuff. Universal gear, kind of what everybody ends up using. And if you're not a camper, you haven't heard this. If you are, you know this already. But it's amazing how something can be that good to where pretty much everybody has one. So that jet boil, I don't know that you leave the house without that thing. So just having within seconds, like what is it? Not 2 minutes.
No, 30 to 60
30
seconds.
to 60 seconds, you're boiling enough water to make a meal. You're boiling enough water to make your coffee.
Yep.
And the only thing you do in that is water. So you never have to wash it. Like you hand wash it, you don't need to put it in the machine or whatever. But if that's all you do is boil water, then there's no real need to get in and clean freaking chili mac out of that thing, right? From last trip. It stays clean.
It's still good, but you want it cleaned out.
Quick, and all of it fits inside the actual the jet boil deal. Garmin Enrich, we talked about that. One of the universal things is a tent, not a bivy, at least for the motorcycle stuff. A bivy sack is basically a waterproof bag you get in. And yeah, if you're wanting to save ounces, bring a bivy, and it seems to make sense. On the 5-gallon challenge, I use a bivy. Survival stuff, use a bivy. But if you're out and the weather changes, you want a tent.
You got to get out of the weather.
You need to get out of the weather. Yeah. You want that thing not touching you, and you're probably going to put some gear in there with you. At least your shoes, and your boots, your jacket, all that stuff is in there with you. And if you got a bivy, you're out of space, and it just sucks. Like if it's raining bad, you're probably going to bed early during the daylight just to get out of it. If you don't have anything to get under and you're out in the middle of the desert or something like that. So you're hanging out reading a book and all that, it's not going to cut it in a bivy. So I think it's worth a little bit of the extra.
It's horrible. I just got the visual. It's horrible.
You're like in a burrito. You just look up against your face. Oh, mercy. Let's see, ground pad, having some kind of layer, typically foam of some kind. I don't go with the inflatable ones because I've had them betray me and I'm done with them, like as far as they leak and they got nothing. But if you got a piece of foam, like that ground pad would be in the military, but now they've got, what's the name?
Memory foam type of thing?
It's not quite a memory foam. It's just like it's
closed cell foam.
Like closed cell foam.
Yeah.
And the ground will suck the heat out of you, right? Yep. So if you have that layer on there, it's not meant to be a lot of comfort. It's just saying it's not going to suck your heat
insulation.
Out of you. It's an insulation layer.
And that was one of the things that we talked about when we did that shakeout gear, that night hike.
Yeah.
And camped out. And very specifically, out of that, just whatever pad I had, my lower legs were off the pad.
Yeah.
And it absolutely sucked the heat out like that. And I'm like, I guarantee that's going to change come tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Yeah, and South Denver, man, we're just hiking through just one night. Yeah. And we just hiked, laid up in the bushes for like about an hour or something like that. And then got back up when everybody's kind of sleepy and cranky and getting going. And man, you get that chill in you. Now you're fighting that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely having a ground pad or something like that.
I think a lot of people had headlamps or a hat with a light built in. Once it gets a little bit darker and you need to go into the woods or get to your tent, that seemed to be kind of a universal piece everybody had.
It's so funny because I get these lessons with my son. You know, I'm like, hey, buddy, it's not dark yet, and I want you to go put on clothes. Because he's in shorts and he's just like, hey man, America. So he's got,
Mowgli?
Mowgli, man. I'm like, we have a roller house. Hey man, no nipples at the table. He's like, what? I'm like, no nipples at the table, man. Go get a shirt on, man. And it comes from when my nephews were staying with us, and they're teenage young guys. They come down and they're hanging out. I'm like, hey, no nipples at the table. And they're like, what? I'm like, man, I don't need your nipple hair in my soup, right? So they're like, hey, so my son laughs about that. But when it's like last light, I'm like, hey, go get some clothes on, go get some pants. I want to see with socks on. I want to see with some longer pants on. I want to see with a jacket. And go get your headlamp, put it on your neck. And then, he's a boy, so he just gets busy. He's like, Dad, I can't find my headlamp. I'm like, why can't you? Well, can I borrow your headlamp? Why do you need my headlamp? Well, because it's dark. I'm like, exactly, that's my point. Get it before it's dark, right? Yeah. And now I use it for the rest of the night. So just good stuff, man. I am a headlamp guy. I'm telling you, flashlights, knives, Ziploc bags, man. I'm a happy man.
Gloves.
Gotta have gloves. Yeah, I like gloves. I cut my hand bad before catching a dryer, and I've handled enough appliances to know they're made of razor blades at the bottom. Yeah, I still didn't grab the gloves. Should've. Good sleeping bag. That's one of the essentials from some of the guys is that, man, if you can't sleep, and that's where you're going to get the size because it's bulky, but again, juice is worth the squeeze. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Big old bag, a little more bulk on your bike. Not a ton of weight, but add some weight too, but it's a good night's sleep. And when you're pushing hard hours, man, you got to be clear.
Well, and the other thing too is if you get wet, you can dry yourself. If you have the right bag, you can dry yourself in your bag when you're completely wet. And just your body mechanics do it. And you take in a bunch of calories while you're laying in the bag, but that will save your bacon to have a good bag.
Yeah. So. Especially cold, right? You're really cold, like life and death cold. Yeah. Like you can fall in a river, let your jeans freeze, and then bang them off on a tree, right? And it's like, okay, I'll get the water out of them, and while you just stay alive in a good bag. Yeah. And I think, guys were talking about that. It's important to know that your rating on your bag doesn't mean comfort. It means survival.
It means survival.
Like a 0 degree bag, don't go out and try to camp in 0 degrees.
No.
So you're not going to be comfortable. You're just not going to die. So some guys are talking about 0, some 30 degree bags. It's just obviously the heavier it is, and the technology matters on what it's made with too. But make sure you've got a good bag and you've tested it for the temperatures you're going to go hang out in. Toolkit, we talked about earplugs. Anytime you're on some kind of, one, it can be the wild. I've been out in the wild and it's been so loud because of the time of year, because of insects, because of animals and all that stuff. But mainly it's the two-legged variant with snorers. Yep. If you've got to share rooms or a campsite and somebody's loud snorer, have some earplugs because they take up 0 space and it's life and death. Like now, if you're not sleeping for a couple nights, you're dangerous.
We just send them a ridge over back home.
Take them to the train station.
You're at the train station, wake up in a river, like you're over there on the other side of that splashing water. Here's that splashing water. Smoke wagon, bring a gun. Like if you're camping in California, you're wrong anyway. Say that out loud. But Wyoming, not a problem. Montana, not a problem. Again, what ifs? It's like I could go on a tangent about this one, but especially I think I get more serious about it when my kids are with me. It's like it's my job out here, and you're lower in the food chain unless there's some equalizers involved. So I don't really leave home without it.
Well, and you're going into turf that you are not familiar with.
Yeah.
Part of that not familiar with is animals and where they're at in their cycles of just being.
Yeah.
And so you go into a place and you plop yourself onto this landscape that you have no working knowledge of what animals are there and what are they doing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's basic. You bring a gun.
Yeah. And I think, and a lot of times, we've been in situations where it's the two-legged variant, once again. Like, man, people are freaking weird, and they're weirder in the hills. Yeah. Like you get out there, and like those dudes that drove through the mudslide, had like 5 teeth between them. They were having a big old time.
That was between
those
2
are the people
trucks.
you drag out of the river because they were like, whoa, and they went right over that mudslide. And we're like, nah, not happening. But I've just been in situations where it's been like, man, this guy, something's not right. And I was with, hiking with a young lady back in the day, and man, it was just it was a bad situation where everything in me was going off as far as alarms, and I'm like, Roger that. And they go fire. They were going to give us a ride, and I reached down, rack one of the chambers. Said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing, but something's not right here." Better to have one, not need it. Need one, not have it. So there it is. Additional notes, and then we'll finish with this. I think a lot of people were saying less clothes. You pack on the what ifs, and you end up with stuff you didn't touch or you didn't really need, right? So just having less clothing, planning that out. And again, You can have different layers. Then if it starts getting cold, just start doubling up. Like I told Christian at one point, hey, put 2 shirts on. He's like, I got 2 shirts on. Like, cool, good thinking, whatever. Mike was talking about Moto Mike, changes Moscow, Reckless 80s to backcountry, 25 liter, just going for a little easier compartment, and that's one of the brands that's out there. Again, with Moto Mike, non-negotiable, his 0 degree bag. So he's one of those guys that wants to sleep. Mm-hmm. Elliot, his non-negotiable was his Helinox cot. So he just got this and tried it. So this is funny because we talk about the jank, no jank thing.
Right. I
was considering the cot thing when I was going to be on my bike. And he bought sometimes it works out, few and far between.
Yeah.
Those things are
they're spendy.
150, 160 bucks, and they're raving about them. And it's poles, you put them together, you slide them in a deal, and it makes a cot that sits up about 6 inches, 6 inches off the deck, right? So I go to order one, they're not to be had. We're leaving, and this one orders today. Like if I order it, it shows up today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll try it, 65 bucks. And I'm like, this is either go in the garbage can, it's either
going to go with the deck Trex?
The Trex deck, or it's going to be the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Made of a little bit of different material on the canvas part of it, but the thing, it looks to be the exact same thing. It's 65 bucks and 150 bucks. Sure. And I know I'm talking to the 86er here, so he's like, I just buy 5 of the best. And,
he doesn't even hit the immersion.
I know, it's like just different status of life. So it's like sometimes it jumps straight to the top, and I totally get it. Right, the no jank.
Well, it's because of that. It's because of over the course of my life, I have spent 5-fold on a whole bunch of the wrong ones to get to the right one.
Yeah.
And so you're in it way deeper. And I finally, at some point, I'm just like, you know what? I'll cry. I'll have a little moment. I'll spend the money, and then it'll be good. Yep. Hopefully.
I'm torn between that because I totally understand what you're saying because I've seen the guys that show up with these off-brand pistols or whatever, and it's just a mess. You're like, man, it just caught you. But I've heard people take the buy once, cry once to the extreme.
Sure.
And I've seen the guys that show up at the range, and then some kid outshoots them with granddad's 30-30, and you're like, this wasn't about the gear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So there is a happy medium.
There is, absolutely.
Like even the Helinox cot, that he went with Helinox cot, super speedy, whatever. That Helinox chair, Don sat in it, it buckled, and he caught the back of his head on the picnic table. And we're all like, gee! There's not many of those in you where you slam the back of your head on a picnic table.
Right.
And I don't know that he did anything aggressively. He didn't slam down in it or anything like that.
No, he sat down and just kind of relaxed back because he just got out of the lake.
Yeah.
So
and it buckled, sent him backwards and slammed into the deal. And I've got I think Ascent. What was it? Ascent? The Cabela's brand, very similar chair that I've used on, 20 hikes. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyways,
my chair, it's that high back one. I've had it for, 15 years or something.
And that's stinking nice because that's what, did Ellie have one of those? Same brand?
I don't remember.
The high back?
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic when it doesn't buckle and send
when it doesn't buckle.
When it doesn't buckle and send you into the picnic table.
Yeah.
It's good to go. But Mike does not bring and Mike doesn't bring a camp chair.
No.
So now he's in a different situation because he's a professional photographer, so he has to cut weight because on top of all that, he's carrying all the camera gear.
Yeah.
So everything that everybody's got to just get through the day, he's got to cut that in half to make sure that he's got all his gear.
Right.
So he doesn't even bring a chair. He sits on the ground, sits on a log, sits on a whatever. And then one of the things that Don brought out that we're all like eureka, because one of my favorite things about all this is seeing all the different ways that people make coffee.
Yeah.
And he pulls out frickin' Folger single tea bags, and we're like, dude, that's like the easiest thing. Like even why even bring a cup? Just put that thing in like a skull bandit and just pour. We were talking about this. Pour honey in the other side of your mouth, and every once in a while swish your mouth.
Every once in a while swish it.
Hey, man, let's get back to riding. Yeah. So much fun. But he pulls those, not like strong coffee, so I'm like, you double those up, 2, 3. Yeah. And I'm not a coffee snob. I want black coffee. I want to put honey in it. I want to sit there with a stick of bacon. I want to watch the lake, right? Yeah. And we're going to start the day, and then we're going to kick it off and get after it. But I'm gonna check them out, so we'll see. But I was like, man, I've looked at all this. Remember we looked at the powdered ones? Is it Alpine? There's a brand out there where it's like the instant.
Yeah. The instant.
But they claim to be good coffee.
Yeah.
And
I've never found one yet that was good.
They claim that's kind of the best one, so I bought some, and I'll try them out, and we'll see.
I've also had the Folgers bags. Those have been around a long time.
Have they?
Yeah.
I don't even know why I just passed those up. Maybe. Maybe I'll try them and they'll work, and maybe not. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. And then obviously the right camp cup. That's something where I'll give up a little bit of. I've got a cup, the efficiency of 2-in-1, the cup
so
that
cute.
fits around the Nalgene bottle,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's something about the right cup. And as you know, because we've got, I don't know how many we ordered in there, 3,
Yeah.
4, that are sitting in there that we're testing because we got an event coming up. And I want to get the right coffee cup in everybody's hand. Like
Yeah.
the one like in 20 years, you're going to drink and look at it and you're just going to giggle.
Yep.
Yep.
You'll be like, this is the one I grab
Yeah.
every single trip.
Yep.
All right, guys, we made it through the list. 20-minute podcast in what, 60?
Yeah, we
usually-
rounded up.
That's about
That's about
it
right.
is. Cool. He starts off with 20 minutes. Let's go for 20. And then 55 minutes later, we're like, well, we missed the mark again. Any alibis, guys? Give you final thoughts?
You know, the things I was most pleased with is my 511 boots and that Kuyu jacket. Warm every single day because not only were they comfortable, but functional. And I don't leave home without them now. It's made me happy.
Nice.
And Jay linked up with us in Wyoming. Got a
Yeah.
good night of camping in. Beautiful spot right next to a little stream.
The very northern end of the BDR.
Pretty
It
much
was
pretty much
gorgeous.
Montana.
High country.
I don't know what
Yeah.
above tree level in a Sprinter van with a German Shepherd. It was robust.
something.
That's the way to roll.
That's
So
right.
good. And then the wrap up in Casper, where we got some, is it Broadus?
Brought us meats.
Braddus Meat
Broadus
Market.
Meats Market. So we make it a point to stop by there. We got 25
Jalapeno bacon.
pounds of smoked jalapeno bacon and their
Amazing
brats.
brats.
Like a variety of, I don't even know, what was it, habanero, pepper jack.
Yeah,
Jalapeno
classic.
cheddar.
Yeah.
Just fantastic grub, and got to kind of wrap it up with the team. And it was amazing. And like I said, can't say enough that my son got to come and experience all that for the second time. It's likely going to be an annual thing. Told Rachel I'm rethinking selling the Tundra. It's probably going to be a dedicated vehicle exactly for this, and we'll see how it goes. So what's next?
Yes. Benghazi.
Well, I mean, but yeah, the next week
But the next
is the
BDR.
Remember Benghazi. We're heading up to, that's going to be a road trip, heading on motorcycles, pushing about an average of 500. Is that right? 500 miles? There's
300
400,
miles
there's
a day.
500. Oh, no.
Mid
I'm
threes.
sorry.
Mid threes a day.
Hours. That's where I was going. It was going to be the hours was going to be an average of about 5 per day in the saddle. So there's some that are 4 and change, some that are 6 and change, some that
Yeah.
are 5 and change. So right around there. So it'll be demanding, but it should be, because we're going to go up there and honor the folks that we lost, the 10-year anniversary of the attack in Benghazi on September 11th. So we're going to go up there, and I'm going to be a keynote speaker, and we've got 17 of us rolling up there to represent and honor those guys. So I'm pretty proud of that. It's going to be epic. But for next year, we have another BDR coming, so we have to spend some time thinking about that one. I've kind of got my eyes on Idaho. I kind of forget about Idaho. Idaho's beautiful.
It's
Because
gorgeous.
Idaho's very close
I don't
to
know
the
why we wouldn't do
86er
Idaho.
too.
I don't know.
It's food for thought.
And the Jack, just saying. It's
The
close.
Jack. That's a good
Close.
call.
Just a little swing into the jack.
That might have just happened.
Yeah.
All right. More to come. You have to wait
Stay
and see.
tuned.
So check us out on ableshepherd.com. That's ABLESHEPHERD. Till we see you guys again, God bless each and every one of you.
And take
Take care of one
another.
another. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.